What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. I've been following the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason as they come close to free agency and the draft coming up, and I've been looking at their roster and monitoring the kind of positions they need to fill. I just did a video on the three cuts of Trubisky, Chuks Okorafor, and Presley Harvin. I did a video talking about the free agents we have coming up on our team and who we should cut and who we should keep. So if you want to check out those two videos, they've been posted in my channel in the last 2 weeks. Go back and check those out. But the Steelers stay busy. We continue to create more cap room. We had just created like $13 to $14 million in cap space by cutting Trubisky, Okorafor, and Harvin. Then the salary cap got increased exponentially, so Pittsburgh had more room to play with. So I was kind of thinking they might kind of cut back on the cuts, so to speak, because they had more money with the salary cap increase. That Pittsburgh would take it a little easy and retain a few more of their guys. Not the case. In a positive way today, we see another Pittsburgh cut, another starter gone. Starting center for the last 2 years, Mason Cole, has been released. This tells you they are not resting on their laurels. They are trying to upgrade, and they are trying to get rid of those kind of holes on both sides of the ball. They are trying to get rid of people that they don't look at as long-term starters. They are picking apart the important spots on this team and prioritizing them. By cutting Mason Cole, this one's a little bit of a surprise to me, but based on the money he was going to make and based on his production and how it kind of had dropped off, especially last year, this cut makes a lot of sense. Mason Cole was signed to a 3-year contract in 2022. He started all 17 games, I believe, of each of the past 2 seasons, so 34 starts in 2 years, plus the 1 playoff start. At center for this team, after he had played center and a few other positions on the offensive line elsewhere, but into his 2 years, into his 3-year contract, he gets cut. He was due to make $4.75 million this year, so almost $5 million in cap savings with this cut. He played pretty solid, I think, in his first year. I think overall his first year with us, I think he was decent. Nothing special, nothing splashy, but a consistent, healthy, decent blocker. But again, nothing special, just kind of a good guy to fill in. A veteran guy, didn't make a ton of mistakes, wasn't going to give you a lot of splash either, just kind of somewhere in the middle. Came into the start of last season, ranked very low in PFF. I think he was like 30th out of 35 possible centers, which I actually thought, based on this team, that was a little low. This is before we had Sayamalu and Broderick Jones and people like that. So Cole and James Daniels coming in was an upgrade for us at the time for our offensive line. I thought Cole was a little bit underrated based on those ratings from PFF. And then this season, he was just wildly inconsistent. Started the year decently. Again, stays healthy. He's out there consistently. But at center, he showed us not only was he having struggles with blocking in the run game, but also just like some penalties here and there, but snapping the ball, which is obviously the biggest component of being a center. It's super important to get the ball to your quarterback, especially when your quarterback is a young Kenny Pickett who was struggling, or Trubisky who played terribly, or, eventually Mason Rudolph. So there's a lot of turnover and fluctuation at quarterback. Also a turnover and fluctuation at offensive coordinator by the end of the year. You want to be consistent in snapping the ball and being able to block under center to keep your run game solid and keep your quarterback consistently and knowing what the snap count is and where the ball is going to be going. There were at least 4 errant snaps I counted, if not a few more, for Mason Cole this year, not snapping the ball well. And honestly, only gave up 2 sacks on the books this year, and I think had 4 penalties. So not like astronomically bad numbers, but not great. And just kind of got worse as the season went on. Like I said, he started the season not too bad. By the end of the year, he was considered pretty bad. I mean, he was, the 3rd worst offensive lineman on this team. And at the time, we had Chuks Okorafor starting, and we had Dan Moore. So that's not, that those guys were playing so badly. The 3rd worst was not that big of a compliment, honestly. Daniels was solid for the most part, and Sayamalu was really good, and those guys got better as the year went on. And once Broderick Jones came in, it was down to Dan Moore and Mason Cole being the weak links on this line. Now, since they've cut Chuks Okorafor, they've put Broderick Jones full-time in the starting lineup, and now they've cut Mason Cole. So Pittsburgh is making a concerted effort to get better on the offensive line, bringing in James Daniels 2 years ago, bringing in Sayamalu, drafting Broderick Jones, putting him in the starter position, now cutting Okorafor, cutting Mason Cole. We are prioritizing this offensive line to make our running game the best it can be, which it really ended up the year being strong, and getting our quarterback the best system possible, whether it's Mason, whether it's Kenny, whether it's somebody else, giving our quarterback the best chance to succeed and thrive in this offense. Getting that solid line, getting back to prominence on the line is a big priority for this team. So again, based on kind of where he ranks in the line and kind of how he played toward the end of this year, I think Mason Cole is a good cut. If you were going to bring him back, you weren't going to pay him $5 million to be on your bench. And if he was going to be a bench guy, he would have to take a big cut. And you wouldn't want him coming back in at center anyway. He'd be more of a guard or even a tackle over center. So you cut a guy who probably was going to be on your bench next year anyway. And you save $5 million toward your cap, another nice chunk to make more money for your cap to go sign somebody. And now what does this do for the future, right? So the only kind of swing centers you have on your roster are James Daniels, who played center before he started playing guard, but he's been a pretty solid guard. Could you move James Daniels to center? You could, absolutely, but I think he's better off at guard, and he's been consistent here at guard, especially once we got Broderick Jones in the lineup. And then you have Nate Herbig, Nick's brother, who has played kind of all along the offensive line, especially kind of a swing center and guard. He's kind of more of a guard than a center, but he can play center. Could he fill in here and there and play when somebody's hurt or play as you bring a rookie along? He could kind of fill in. I don't think he's a full-time starter. He's not somebody you want in there consistently, so we don't currently have a current starting center on this roster. If you want to keep James Daniels at guard, you got to get a center. Now, what does this mean for our future? Well, it means that number one, we have made center our number one priority in this draft. In my opinion, center was already, in my mind, the top priority. It was like center, tackle, corner, kind of those were the three big things. And then inside linebacker, I think at fourth. You could look at safety possibly. Inside linebacker and safety were something to be addressed. But I think it was tackle, center, and corner are our top three needs for the draft. Now we've made it so that we need a starting center in this draft. Because free agency-wise, yeah, there are guys out there, but is there anybody to bring in right now at a good price point that can be a consistent starter? I don't know. You have guys like Cushenberry from Denver. He's going to want way too big of a contract. I don't think he's going to be affordable for us, at least not if we want to fill other holes in free agency. You've got a Connor Williams from Miami. He's more in our price range, but he's coming off, I think, a quad tear or some major injury last year. He was hurt a lot. So you're looking at some of the top guys coming off injuries. I don't know if we're going to be in the market for one of those guys. If anything, we're going to bring in another center, and I think we're going to address it. We're going to bring in at least one, if not two, offensive linemen in free agency to be depth pieces and maybe the occasional spot starter. But I don't think we're going to bring in a center to be a starter from free agency. I don't think there's one that's right for us. The top level guys are going to be too expensive or too hurt, and we're going to have to wait on them. And the bottom level guys are going to be good depth pieces, but they're not going to be a full-time starter. So I think Pittsburgh does address center in free agency with a veteran, but it's not somebody you want to start. It's going to be another guy like maybe a Mason Cole or a Nate Herbig, somebody who can come in and play different spots, position versatility, can play occasionally, but is not going to be your starter. What I think we're going to be looking for a franchise guy is the draft. This is a center-heavy draft in the first two rounds. Even if we don't go first-round center, we'd go second-round center. I think we're going first round at this point. The two names that have been looked at the most for us, even really before this cut, but now especially with this cut of Mason Cole, we're looking at Jackson Powers-Johnson from Oregon, and we're looking at Zach Frazier from West Virginia. And I think the Duke center is another guy to look at. But I think JPJ, the second year in a row looking for a JPJ, Jackson Powers-Johnson or Zach Frazier are going to be the kind of guys we target in that first round. And I don't think there's a need to trade up in the first round because you have multiple centers that are first round worthy, in my opinion. Jackson Powers-Johnson is the guy that I would want the most before I look at everyone's tape, just based on what I know so far. Jackson Powers-Johnson is the guy that I'm looking at the most here. But I think any of your top 3 or 4 centers are going to be starter worthy coming in off that like mid to late first round through early to mid second round. You've got some quality capable guys there. So I think we're going to draft one of those guys, and I think we're going to bring in another veteran backup to go with an Nate Herbig. You're going to have Herbig, another low-priced veteran for $1 million or $2 million, and then you're going to have a rookie center who's going to come in, hopefully on day one, and be able to be your starter. They took their time with starting at tackle. They really took their time bringing in Broderick Jones when I thought they should have earlier. I thought Chuks Okorafor shouldn't have been here for the money he was getting paid. And I think that Broderick showed signs early of being a star, and they took their time. So let's hope they don't take their time too much or need to with a Jackson Powers-Johnson or a Zach Frazier. Because this obviously is a huge need now, way more than tackle, because even though we need another tackle and I don't want Dan Moore to be the starter, Dan Moore has shown that he at least can be a starter and can at times play well. He's not consistent, and at times he's downright bad, but at least he's shown that he can play and he can be good at times. So this now makes center a bigger need than tackle. So that is where the future lies, but Pittsburgh not resting on their laurels, cutting guys who are not starter consistent worthy for this team, saving $5 million in cutting Mason Cole. What do you guys think? Was Mason Cole worth the cut? Was he worth a restructure? Could he have been a starter next season? Or does this point toward the future? Who do you want to see us pick up in free agency or draft? Tell me in the comments down below about our future at center and what you think of this cut. And please like, share, and subscribe. These Steeler Deep Dives, as I bring you guys more coming up. I'm going to be doing a free agency video, and of course any other cuts that Pittsburgh makes for us looking toward the future with our roster. Take care, and I'll see you guys soon.